Hey, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to today's program where we're going to talk to our friends at Vida Verde. My name is Mark Medeiros. I'm the Senior Manager of Community Engagement at Peninsula Open Space Trust. My pronouns are he, him, his. And before we get started, as usual, I want to acknowledge the Native people whose land we are calling from. Today, I am in downtown San Jose, and for that reason, I like to acknowledge the Amamutun tribal band and the Muwekma Ohlone tribe, whose territories are here in the South Bay. But wherever you are, please acknowledge the Native people whose land you are on, and remember that we all have a responsibility to support them in their current goals and learn about how we can get involved. So, for those of you who don't know about POST, I also want to share a little bit about us very quickly. We're going to show you this animation of our protected lands on the peninsula in the South Bay. We've protected 80,000 acres since our founding in 1977. Most of this is now open to the public as part of our local parks. And we do this work to protect land for public access, for farmland, for wildlife, to protect our redwood forests. So a variety of benefits for all the people who live here in our region. And of course, this is thanks to all of our donors. We hope some of our donors are watching today. We want to say thank you, as usual, to all of you who have made this work possible over our history. And today, we're going to be talking about this incredible environmental organization called Vida Verde that's operating up in La Honda area. And it's a great example of an organization that POST has had the privilege to partner with that is working to advance environmental equity on and around post-protected lands in the region. And to discuss that with us today, we have Laura Sears, who is one of the co-founders and executive director of Vida Verde, as well as Allie Roth, Vida Verde's head of programs. Two really awesome people, and I'm very much looking forward to speaking to them today. So with that, I'm going to welcome them to the program. Hey, how's it going, Allie?
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Laura.
Hi.
Hey, how are you both doing?
We're good. We're having those last second internet interruptions, which is sort of part of our world now. So getting some, last second sweat going right before the program. So we're happy to be here.
Yeah, right. Definitely happy to be here. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm excited to talk to the community about Vida Verde, the organization we work for, and I'm really excited to share our message during these times. It's always impactful to have a little boost of, dopamine from do-gooders. So we're excited to be here today.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're doing all sorts of programming and taking care of your families and whatnot. So everybody knows Allie and Laura are up in La Honda. There's limited internet capabilities out there. So we're just going to see how it goes. If somebody drops off, no problem. We'll just tag team and keep the program going if anything happens. And thank you to everybody who's joining us. I see a couple of folks saying they're really excited to hear from you today. All right, well, we're going to be talking a lot about Vida Verde and your history and programs and all that. But before we get started, for our viewers, are each of you willing to share a little bit about yourselves and where you're coming from and what brought you to this work? Either of you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in. I'm Laura, and along with my husband, Sean, the two of us founded Vida Verde. It's been almost 20 years now. So this is basically our life's work. besides being classroom teachers before this. And I actually grew up in Western Kentucky, which will surprise you when you hear Allie's bio also, but I'm from Kentucky originally, born in West Virginia, grew up in Kentucky, and moved to California right after, a couple years after college. And so have been here right here on the coast side in numerous locations for almost 20 years, made this certainly my adult home. And I think for me, I would say the thing that connected me most to outdoors as a kid was getting the chance to go to summer camp. And that was a real life changer for me, being from a small rural community to go out to a camp and meet other people. So yeah, I'm here now. Sean just turned over the executive director position to me this summer. So I'm super excited about that. And he's still full-time active with the organization, just taking on a different role. So yeah. And we have a 7-year-old who's been at home with us a lot lately. So that's me. Check. Allie.
Where are you? So
Thank you,
Allie. Well, thank you, Laura.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Laura. My name is Allie Roth. Hi, everybody, and I use they, them pronouns. Just like Laura, I was born, or not born, or wait, I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, not too far from Paducah, where Laura grew up. And I found my way here by chance. I was on track to become a police officer in Louisville, Kentucky, and had joined the police academy and, left for many reasons, as we probably all know today, but decided I want to do something more impactful with my life and impact the youth in a different way. So moved out here a couple of years ago to work over the hill at Hidden Villa, and then found my way to Vida Verde. I was a first-year instructor last year, and then moved into the head of program role this fall. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and really excited to represent the students that we serve. I think it's awesome to have somebody that looks like them in a position of leadership at an org that's doing such great work. So really happy to be here and to be a part of that.
Thank you so much. That's so cool. And I didn't know about your history at Hidden Villa. That's another awesome place for everybody to visit. So thank you, Allie and Laura. So we have this really amazing video that you produced that we're going to show everybody right now, because it really communicates the feeling of your work really well. And then we're going to get into some specifics right after that. So just going to enjoy this video now. Yeah, we're having a little issue with the sound there. So I think I didn't mention, but we have our my coworker Katie here helping us with the programming. So I think Katie's working on that issue real quick. Let's see if we can get the sound here. Oops. Nope. Don't know what's going on there.
I'm going to add myself and see if it works.
Katie. Okay, great.
Hi. birthday, and my mom allowed us to play outside. So she said this is the only time we get to go outside. It's just really dangerous to go outside. Keep your doors locked.
We're gonna go outside to the tallest trees in the world, the redwood trees. Are you connected? At its core, Vida Verde is all about breakthroughs for kids.
We try to create these situations where in the beginning they're like, no way.
Do it. I like how you help the forest.
And then at the end, they just feel like, wow, I'm capable of a lot more than I thought. The program is designed so that this can be a transformational experience.
You've done it, Carlos. You've caught a chicken.
That's a huge wave!
There are a lot of kids who live right here in the Bay Area, but many of them have actually never touched the Pacific Ocean.
What was so powerful about it was like my first time being like in nature. After Vida Verde, I told my mom that I wanted to be half vegetarian because fruits and vegetables give out more energy.
Understanding where food comes from and how it's connected to you on a daily basis is very empowering. Who got this?
We got it!
Yeah!
While we do have a focus on the science standards, the biggest things that I hope the children go back to school with are pushing themselves outside their comfort zones and seeing themselves in a way they've never seen themselves before.
Vida Verde matters because it gives kids an opportunity to shine. It's a playground where we get to help them understand their own inner beauty and their own strengths.
We see kids having experiences every week that are transformational for them. And the whole time, we're looking for ways to make the program better. And we've been building on that for years.
Thank you, Kate. That's so amazing. I love watching that. I think a bunch of us at Post have watched that like over and over again. So great job. I mean, the part that gets me is I've learned about your work, and like the part that really gets me is when I hear about how many local kids haven't been up to the redwoods or been out to the beach, and how important that first experience must be. So great job. I think nobody's heard the specifics in this program yet about what you do and the format that you work in, but that really gives an amazing kind of feeling to everybody. Some comments in chat. Donna saying that's beautiful. Catherine, that video makes me tear up every time. Yeah. So now that we have everybody's attention, and emotionally connected to the work, maybe Allie, you could kind of describe the overall philosophy and some of the history of the work, give an overview of the programming there.
Sure. Yeah. I'm with you, Catherine. I tear up every time I see that video. It's just so heartfelt, and having the opportunity and the privilege to experience that with students for me is just like, gives me goosebumps every time to think about. But yeah, so we are a nonprofit organization. We traditionally, before COVID-19, host a 3-day, 2-night program residentially for students to come from the Bay Area. We serve one class a week. And that those schools are schools that we have built partnerships with over many, many years. Lighthouse Charter, for example, is a school that we've been partnered with for more than a decade. And so we keep those relationships building and growing with those administration and with the teachers. We have a very set specific criteria for students to come to Vida Verde. 85% or more of the class must be on free or reduced lunch. And the way that our system is set up right in America, that just so happens to be Black and brown students. So by way of free and reduced lunch, we see 99% or more students of color and students who otherwise would not have this opportunity, meaning that their schools do not qualify and or cannot afford to go to another outdoor education program. So we are their one shot to have this immersive transformational experience in the outdoors. We, for example, have served more than 3,500 students from East Palo Alto, California alone. And over the time that we have been in business, we have served about 12,500 students in all. So we are making strides and impacts every single day, every single year. And as I said, it's a very immersive, transformational experience. And as Sean and Laura mentioned in that video, we do touch on that science-based content, right? When we go to the tide pools or when we hang out in the redwoods, we want to hit that science piece and get that content. But we also want to immerse kids into nature and let them know that it is their playground. They have a right, just as much as any other human being on earth, to kiss a banana slug, to play wave tag, to hold a crab, to milk a goat, right? To drink goat's milk fresh from the teat, to cooking, taking agency over what goes in their salad for dinner, at campfire, roasting a s'mores, roasting a marshmallow for the first time. If I had $1 for every student last year that told me that they had never done that, I would have $500. Like, this is a first time amazing experience for these students, and focusing on that social and emotional learning, making those connections with their teacher, with their peers. I've had students who had arch nemesis in their classroom, and by the end of the trip, they're holding hands, crying as they're getting on the bus, saying goodbye to us. So it's overall a social and emotional experience for these students to believe in themselves, to believe in each other, and to carry those qualities throughout the rest of their life, to give them the courage to try that math problem in class or to go on a walk in their neighborhood, to give them the courage to overcome real life circumstances that they deal with when they go home.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's amazing. So 20 years now that you've been working. A little point of context for folks. Again, you're up in La Honda. You have a 25-acre kind of home site there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been how many kids over the past 20 years?
Yeah, so approximately 12,500 have participated in those 3-day, 2-night immersive programs.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the other piece, Allie talked about what we call sort of our core program, which is that 3-day, 2-night, where they go to the ocean, they go to the redwoods, they come to our farm every single week. They do those same core programs. And then we built that for about 17 years. We worked on that. We worked on every single week, talking about improving it. What went well? What didn't go well? How can we do better? How can we better serve the students? And after 17 years of that, we finally felt ready to branch out and start a second program. It's something that we dreamed about for a long time, which was a way to work with the same kids when they were a little bit older. And so we did a couple years of a pilot of a teen summer camp for alums of the school year program. And then after this past summer, actually after our first COVID summer of summer camp, which we'll talk about in a little bit, interestingly, that was the summer that really solidified our feelings about how much impact we can have there, and that we are going to now have that continue on as a permanent program. So
Mhm.
we now are a 2-program organization, which took us a while to get there, but we feel we like that slow growth model.
That's amazing, and that kind of reminds me of a question I was just thinking of as Allie was speaking, and remembering that it's been 20 years now. I haven't even asked either of you this, but some of those first youth that went through the program, that was 20 years ago, they're like 30 or something now. So do you all have some contact with former students, I imagine? You hear stories from them?
Yeah, we're lucky to work with a few schools that are K through 12, and so it's easier to kind of follow the students as they go all the way through high school and then into college. And so we have had contact with a number of the students, especially because we work with the same schools year after year. We have families who come through. And so we will have a group come from one school of 5th graders, and a chaperone on the trip will be a sibling.
Wow.
And we, even this year, for the first time, we had a parent who came to Vida Verde,
Wow.
which just blew my mind. It made me feel, I don't know, we don't need to talk about how but I felt great for the most part. And yeah, so we are getting to see that, and we are now really hoping to have more of those kids come back and apply for jobs here. That's kind of one of our ultimate dreams. And the other time we see these wonderful students is when we are in the communities and we are going out to eat, or we're at the movies or wherever, and we have on our sweatshirts, our Vida Verde sweatshirts, and people who we don't recognize will come up, grown-ups, right? These grown-ups will come to me and be like, "Oh my gosh, it's you from 15 years ago," and it's kind of mind-blowing. It's really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about the common ground between Post's work and your work. You're serving folks in a way that Post doesn't specifically serve communities in terms of providing an environmental education program. And we're going to describe a little bit how we've worked together in a second. But I'm just thinking about how it's so important to us as well to help support this goal of everybody in this big Bay Area community, all the diverse communities of people with different identities. Like, we found ourselves all here together. This is our space, this is our home, this is our shared home. And in fostering that sense of, shared connection and commitment to this place, for youth and adults, it's just so powerful. And, I think without getting too specific into our missions, it's how we're going to create a sustainable future for this place, is, all having that shared connection. And you're doing such a great job. So just some off the top of my head reflections on all that. So we're going to share, I wanted to share a map here. So the connection between Post and Vida Verde, this is a context map. Everything in green is protected lands. And the 2 stars there are showing the rough locations, the big star being like the main Vida Verde site. And then the smaller star is this 10-acre property that we've partnered with y'all with, that has housing for staff on it. And I just wanted to describe the story here. There was this 318-acre property that was called Driscoll Orchards at the time, and most of it has been incorporated now into La Honda Creek Open Space Preserve. And for a variety of reasons, there was this one portion of that property with 2 houses on it that didn't make sense to incorporate into the preserve. And so we actually have worked with you all over the years. You rented the property for a little bit under an agreement, and then completed a capital campaign and eventually bought it. And now it's housing that's supporting, this important issue of providing housing for staff that's providing these programs. So that was my really quick rundown there. It's like another unique way that Post has, facilitated some resources and land access for an important program in the region. And I think this is a picture of the renovations going on. So just wanted to give that context for everybody. Is there anything either of you want to share about that? That whole deal there?
Sure, I'd love to. And I mean, one of the things I wanted to kind of give Post a little credit for is that, well, two things. One is that just thinking about collaborations and that word and how it can be a buzzword, and how, sometimes we feel pushed into like trying to collaborate more when it doesn't quite make sense. But I feel like Post did a really good job of reaching out to us and partnering and collaborating with us just as thought partners before this property was even available, years before. And so we were already talking, we were already had that relationship going. And so when these houses became available, Post already knew our needs. They already knew that we were really desperate for housing for our staff, that we had people commuting every day from Oakland, from Santa Cruz, to come to work with students here. It was one of our key pieces of the equity and in our organization as a whole that we're working on, which is how do we get people to come work here who may not have the resources to afford housing out here on the coast side, which is so expensive. So Post knew about that need of ours. And when these properties came available, they thought of us, you all thought of us. And then the second piece is that you were able to work with us in a way that we could get the money because, how often do you get the opportunity to rent to own? And as a nonprofit, like we wouldn't have been able to do that if the houses had just been put on the market. We wouldn't have been able to do it that quickly. And so it's been a beautiful partnership for that. And we are so excited about the homes. And they did need a little work, but that we knew about that. So we continue to work on them. This was just a volunteer. We've been having volunteers come out, and we've been painting and doing trim and some other renovations to this house that we haven't moved into yet, but we're really excited about. So that's one of the 2.5 homes that we purchased.
That's awesome. And I'm so glad that it worked out that way. There's this great blog on our website by Noelle, our Vice President of Conservation, who worked pretty directly on this arrangement that explains more about the whole project. I'll mention also that there's a conservation easement on the creek behind the property, protecting some of the resources for steelhead, trout, and coho salmon, and other, riparian like conservation values. So another example of, hitting on multiple goals. So pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all working together. And I wanted to remind everybody in chat, we're following the chat. So we could interject with any audience questions along the way here. So if you have any questions for Allie or Laura, feel free to chime in. And we're going to kind of launch into a general discussion here. Looking at my notes, Katie, if you want to try, we could try showing this 1-minute clip of Sam McDonald. Hopefully Sam McDonald Park and kind of chat about that. So let's do that and then
All right,
chat more.
here we go.
Welcome to Sam McDonald Park. This park is located in San Mateo County, and it is extremely close to the property at which Vida Verde owns and runs, and where I live. This park is special for a lot of reasons. One is because it is filled with hundreds of thousands of tall redwood trees that have been here for thousands and thousands of years. We'll learn a little bit more about redwood trees later. Another reason why it is such an amazing park to me personally is because it was owned and operated by a Black man. His name was Sam McDonald, and he worked at Stanford University in Palo Alto, California. Sam McDonald, many years ago, purchased this piece of land so that he could preserve it for people like you and me and all of those who live in San Mateo County. So let's find out a little bit more about what you need to be prepared on your nature walk.
That's so cool, that history and the way you present that, Allie. Do you want to reflect a little bit on that video and kind of like some of the undertones of like what you're trying to do with that kind of communication?
Yeah, it's one thing in particular that I do when I have students on the ground at Sam McDonald Park. That's the park that we take students to every week in our traditional programming. Tuesday afternoon, we're on the bus, roll into the park, and that's generally how I start out our conversations at the park. Because I think a lot of the students that I've served here at Vida Verde so far, they don't think that the outdoors is accessible to them. We live in a world where the outdoors is whitewashed, and we have been brought up to believe that people of color don't belong in the outdoors. And if you look at our history, right, we all know we weren't allowed to be there. And even if we were still looked at as if we shouldn't be. And that is still perpetuated today in our outdoorsiness that we live in. I think especially in the Bay Area of California. And so making that known to students straight up, like, we are living in this beautiful area and you have the right to go here. This Black man, Sam McDonald, preserved this land so that people could feel inspired and want to go outside to experience nature and to find that peace and that solace in these spaces. So that is the undertone of that video, and we show that to the students as well. And it's something we talk about heavily in our Zoom discussions with students, is you have the access to do that. And we'll talk a little bit more later about our COVID programming and how we're implementing that even more so in our community. But yeah, just letting kids know that the outdoors is for them. And no matter who tells you that it's not, it is.
That's so important. And, as you're talking, this is something that I think about, that a lot of us in this space think about quite a bit, is, whether or not outdoor spaces are safe and welcoming for everybody. And I just want to acknowledge that for some people, when they hear that, they don't want to believe that, or, people outside of that context, coming from a more privileged context, it's a difficult thing to hear, because we don't want to believe that, people who have values of inclusion, they don't want to believe that that's the case, that people feel that way sometimes,
Yeah.
And so I'm just acknowledging that feeling that might come up for some people. And then for other folks, it's the air and the water that you breathe, and a part of just very basic reality that those things are there. So there's a mix of things there. And, a lot of your work is about removing barriers to access. And you're doing such a great job. So I wonder if either of you want to share a little bit about that theme, removing barriers to access, and, how you've been doing that, just reflecting on what it takes.
Yeah, that's definitely been key and a core part of what we've been trying to do from the beginning, which is first identify what are those barriers and then figure out how do we take them down? How do we get kids out who aren't able to otherwise? And so one of the key things we do is that all of our programs are free. So we don't charge the classes. It's not that we have a separate scholarship program for some kids. All the programs are free. The only thing the school is required to do is get here. And even if that's a barrier, which it often is, then we have means to help them with their bus funding, either through foundations that we work with, or sometimes we have a separate field trip bus fund that we can pull from. So that's one of the barriers. It's free. We do ask the class to pay for their bus if they can, and also bring a little bit of the group food. And the kids will often bring I'm going to bring a pack of spaghetti, and I'm going to bring this, ahead of whatever the thing on the list is. And that also gives the kids some kind of ownership and buy-in to the program. So we've had that kind of be a positive thing for the group. So the programs are free. We really help the teachers and walk them through the process because we know that teachers are overworked and overwhelmed. And so the idea of going on a 3-day field trip, especially if it's not part of your school culture already, and if you are the teacher and you have to go out and convince your principal and then convince the parents, and it's a lot of work. And so we try to make that easy for the teachers. We will go out to schools pretty often and do parent presentations. We make sure to have those, make sure there's a translator there, or that one of our staff is able to translate the material when needed.
Ooh.
Oops.
Yeah.
As predicted,
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah. Yeah. I can keep going.
Yeah, please, Allie.
Yeah. So we make sure that we have those opportunities there for the head of program when they go to be myself. But when we go to those guardian presentations, we've got those barriers covered. We can have a translator and we can have those things. We work to have an understanding of where the students are coming from and meeting them where they are. So we get a really detailed student report on where the students are coming from. And a lot of times we know their neighborhoods and their communities. Do you want to take back over, Laura? Or do you want me to keep going?
No, thank you.
Continuing on your thought there.
I was moving into meeting students where they are, Laura.
Meeting them where they are.
Yeah. I finished up the barriers and the guardian presentations.
Yeah.
But yeah, so meeting them where they are, knowing about the students. We're currently working on and implementing a cultural relevancy report, so we can gauge more of where the students are coming from, and having them fill out a survey of sorts, so we can know exactly, who's never been camping before or who's never walked in the dark, so we can meet those needs of the students when they get here.
Wow. Yeah, dialed. You guys are getting pretty dialed, thinking about each individual student and what they need.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I think a part of that goes into, we lost Laura again, so I'll just keep going. A part of that is, compared to other outdoor education schools, like we've got San Mateo Outdoor Ed and other county programs in the area, we're not as focused on science standards, right? Like we really want to implement that social and emotional learning. We want to meet those basic needs on that hierarchy. We want to make sure that the kids are having fun. We want to make sure that they feel safe and that we're making those positive connections with them. And, so day one, we're just hopping off the bus, smiling, introducing ourselves, playing a game, feeding them really, really comfort driven food like pizza on Tuesday afternoon, or meeting them with some of their culture, taco and burrito night on a Wednesday night, and just loving on them. If we hit those science standards, then great. But if not, we want them to walk away with that respect for one another and their peers and their teachers, and pushing them outside of their comfort zones and getting them to realize that they are capable of loving and nurturing one another and the environment and being amazing human beings in life. once they grow up,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just reflecting on and appreciating like all the intention and the careful thought that goes into all those, interactions that you're having with the students. Like, my parents are immigrants. I went to camp. I remember it being completely foreign to me, at the time. And like it's those little things you're mentioning about food and like how kids are greeted, what they need specifically. It's all making total sense, as somebody outside of that context, as not an environmental educator, you don't think about those details, but you're doing, obviously doing a great job with that. And there was a couple of comments from the audience, Nikki, reflecting on that earlier video of Sam McDonald and the history there, saying we need to rewrite the narrative on historical land access and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Nikki. Peter was asking, just talking about all this stuff that Laura and Allie were saying about working with the schools and reducing barriers to access. Can either of you share anything about like the types of concerns or questions that have been raised by parents or guardians
Sure.
in terms of participating?
I mean, it really runs the gamut. If you can imagine a fear, we've been asked about it. And sometimes, if you were coming in for the first time and listening in, you might laugh potentially at some of the questions, but it's a window into exactly why we're doing what we're doing, because the parents also did not necessarily have access to anything like this when they were young. And so they might ask about a wild animal that could be a threat to their kid that we don't have in California. And so, like something like an anaconda or something like that, which it is a little bit funny, but it's also not really. It's a signal. It's a red flag of why we need to do this work and why we need to keep doing it. The other thing that people don't think about is that we've been asked not as much about how's my kid going to be safe from an injury being in an outdoor environment, but I've been asked multiple times, is there a fence around the property to keep people out, to keep my kids safe in that way? And so, these questions go deep, and they are oftentimes based in trauma and historical trauma from groups of people who have been marginalized and kept out of those spaces. And so, again, coming at it with a deep respect and humility and being careful about assumptions we make about the kid's experience or the parent's experience. And that goes both ways, because we certainly have kids who come here who they have been on farms for generations and have a great connection to the outdoors that maybe we don't necessarily automatically associate as an outdoor connection. And so it might not be in a state park or, at the beach, but it might be on their farm, or it might be in their neighborhood, just at a local park. Everybody's experience in the outdoors is very unique to them. And so, yeah, the fears run the gamut, and the fears are also the regular thing, like who's going to give my kids their medication in the evening, and what happens if my kid wets the bed? All those kind of questions that you might expect.
Mm-hmm. Anything? Thank you, Laura. Anything to add to that whole theme, Allie?
That's about it. Yeah, we just get a wide range of concerns, and like part of being in this position and working for an organization like that is just having the answers. Like being able to do as much as we can to provide safety and security for the families as well. And again, that's where those long-lasting relationships with the schools really come into play, and having generations of students and siblings and cousins come to Vida Verde. They we're trusted, because we've got a lot of connection in the community.
Yeah, and I'll add in one little piece to this, which is that over the past couple of years, especially with the ice raids and all the extra fears that have been layered on. And this is separate from COVID, which is like a whole other can of worms we haven't opened. But we saw our numbers drop because families didn't want to be separated from their kids. And that makes complete sense. And so we really had to take a step back and take an inventory and figure out, well, what can we do from this end to help reassure families, which also we just have a deep respect. Like, if you can't send your kids and you're not comfortable, of course, don't send your kids. But if you can, and if we can help you feel safer, here are some things we can do. And so an example of one of the things we did is we used to have a policy, like, you can't call and talk to your kids while they're at camp. That's kind of like at every camp, right? Like, you can't talk to your kid unless there's an emergency. But we changed that policy to say, if you're afraid and you're nervous and you need to check in with your kid and make sure, then you can give your name and number to the teacher, and we will give the teacher space each evening to call each of those parents and just have a check-in about the student. So that's just an example of some of the things we've had to adjust to over the past few years.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, and you mentioned COVID, and that brings us to another topic we wanted to talk about, which is how you've pivoted during COVID. So I think Kate has some pictures of your work going on right now that she could share. But while she's bringing them up, either of you guys want to start off with just sharing what your programming looks like these days?
Yeah, I'll start with our summer camp, and then I'll let Allie talk about what's happening right now. It's camp in a backpack is one way you could put it. Also, I just want to say I'm adopting a new word as of this morning, which is not pivot, but adapt, because I just like the definition behind that a little bit better than pivoting. And so we are adapting, and it has not been easy. It has not been without us dragging our feet and a little bit and screaming and hollering a little bit too about it, because this isn't what we signed up for. We didn't sign up for, none of us did, right? Any of us in this world, we didn't sign up for this. So being a program that was based in immersive experiences, then being asked to go online and being forced to go online, it was tough, and we've come around, we've adapted, and it's going much better than we ever thought. So summer camp for the teens, we ended up, what our amazing team, Devin and Melissa, who are the leaders of that, what they ended up doing was they had about, I think, 75 kids signed up for the summer camp, or they had given their interest, and they called every kid who had filled out a registration form, and they had a one-on-one conversation, and they said, hey, here's what's going on, and here are some of our ideas about what we might be able to do with you online, and would you be interested? If so, which specific things are you personally interested in, and what are you not interested in? And from that, some kids peeled off and said, I don't want to do it if it's online. I had, the whole thing was going to camp and getting away from my family or whatever. And so we did lose a few, but a lot of them just said, well, okay, if you're going to do this different program, I'm interested in art, or I'm interested in gardening, or I'm interested in, learning more about this subject in science, they got to choose. And so then Melissa, and that's why it's called Camp in a Backpack, and you saw all those backpacks lined up. Devin and Melissa gathered supplies from volunteers and donations and all over the place, and they filled those backpacks with materials specific to that kid. And you can see them, they're dropping them off at their houses all over the Bay Area. And we also had tons of produce extra from our farm, and so they dropped off food for their families, and then they spent a week with those kids online and doing all kinds of activities surrounding the things that were in their backpack. This picture, Katie, is actually for the next part, but that's fine. It shows us on Zoom with kids. So yeah, so it went amazing. The kids actually loved it, and tons of amazing feedback. And they just all said they wish it would have lasted longer. So that's that part, and I'll turn it over to Allie because there's a little bit more going on with our school year program.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Yeah, so we've got 4 new programs happening that the program team and myself have built and worked tirelessly to become a reality, essentially. There's a lot that's happening, and we're really excited about these opportunities. And I mentioned earlier about trying to close that gap where we're going to the communities and meeting kids where they are. And for a lot of reasons, we can't have kids at Vida Verde right now. We've got overnight restrictions. Some schools aren't in person yet. So there's just a lot of barriers there. So we've created Zoom sessions. I see that we're pulled up on the screen. We've got a YouTube channel, so you can go and subscribe. We're going to be creating new content here soon, but we've got some reflection of our core content and the traditional programming. So how to go on a nature walk, garden with Vida Verde, ocean, goats, and milking. So we've got our Zoom program where we're meeting with students 3 days a week for 5 to 7 sessions and just getting to know them through the virtual world. We're also doing an after-school program near the school that we're serving for that week. So this week on Wednesday, we went to Jack Farrell Park in East Palo Alto, and we met with students from that school. And there we're just making those connections because a lot of teachers actually haven't met their students in person yet. So it's a really beautiful experience when the teachers get to see their students in the flesh, and we play games and have snack, and all COVID safe, of course. But getting to know each other, we take chickens and banana slugs and try to bring that experience to them. That's for about 3 hours on Wednesdays, and it's really beautiful to get to see those students in person for the team. The third program that we're doing is a family and guardian walk on Saturdays, and that takes place the Saturday after the Wednesday that the students went to the after-school program. So inviting their guardians and their families to come and join us on a 3-hour walk at a preserve or a park with a walking trail near them. And the instructors lead that as well. We take the Vida Verde bus and, pay for people's parking, trying to remove as many barriers as possible and welcome people and go on a walk with them, get to know them and take photos along the way. And last but certainly not least, the last program that we're implementing during this COVID season is self-guided family camping. So we've created forms and reservations for families and students to sign up for camping at Vida Verde for free. We've got a tent set up. We've got sleeping bags where we're taking COVID precautions, and they have the opportunity to come and spend the night and harvest from our garden and then make food with it, or pair up with a goat milker and watch a goat be milked, or explore nearby beaches. So those are all of the evolving programs that we're currently working on. It's really exciting. It's challenging in itself, but it's awesome, and it's an amazing experience for the team to flex a lot of muscles we didn't know existed and come together and meet those goals that we set for ourselves to bridge that gap of not going to communities and not seeing this circle be filled. So it's been an awesome experience to get to meet the communities and be a part of this experience with the kids.
Great job. I can't imagine all the logistics and conversations that you've had to figure out. Okay,
yeah,
how to adapt.
Well,
Yeah.
Allie and the team, they deserve Sean, Allie, Cullen, and Joe have really been stretching beyond, what we could ever have anticipated. We can't appreciate them enough. They are the core of what we're doing. And I just want to say, one of the amazing things that's happening with this adaptation is that We have been wanting to for a while, and we've had it. We have a very comprehensive organization-wide justice, equity, diversity, inclusion plan that we've been working on for a few years. And one of the big pieces of that was how we were going to start engaging more with families and engaging more with kids in the communities where they live. And that had been really a more distant goal. Like, oh, that one feels really hard, and we'll have to create all this new content. And that feels like a huge lift, and we'll have to hire more staff. And I think, if our traditional 3-day program was happening, that would still be true. And so one of the silver linings of this whole situation is that we just skipped ahead in that plan in our strategic plan. We skipped ahead like 3 years, and we're doing it. And it's giving us the space to do that. And so now when things get safer and we're able to go back to that 3-day program, we're going to hold on to some of these things that we're learning. And that's going to be creating a more holistic Vida Verde for the future. And I have chills right now thinking about it. I'm so proud of what we're able to do right now. It's been so hard. I cannot tell you how hard it's been. It's kind of been awful hard, but we're doing it. We're holding each other up. We're really supporting each other as a team through it. And I'm pretty excited for how we're going to come out the other side of this thing and what the adapted Vida Verde is going to look like. I'm going to just keep using that word over and over again. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, you two are incredible leaders, and I appreciate you both so much. So we're at the top of the hour now, but we wanted to, reserve a minute or two to just let everybody know about your website here, Vida Verde Education. You see the URL there on the screen, and we shared the YouTube channel that was mentioned in chat. I want to encourage you all, if you're inspired by this work, to make a donation to Vida Verde. Is there anything else you all want to say about ways to support, spread the word, or get involved now?
Well, I'll go first, Allie. You can jump in for sure. But we do have a benefit. We have our annual benefit coming up on December 6th. If you go to our social media, we're on Facebook and Instagram, then you can see the save the date for that, and we'll be putting out the invitation pretty soon. We're doing a virtual event. We've never done it before, so more new adapting. But we're gonna have a lot of fun with it. It should be a pretty fun morning. So we encourage anybody watching to join us that morning. It's open to all. It's free to all. You don't have to buy tickets.
Yeah, and also if you're interested in volunteering with our flat top renovation, the pictures that Katie showed of the house that we're currently working on, we've got volunteer days on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you just reach out to us via our website, we'll get in contact about how you can help. That just helps us bring in more people with sustainable housing. So that's a good way to help as well. And if you're interested in milking goats, we're always looking for goat milkers too. Wow. So you can join us and volunteer to goat milk and take that milk home with you.
That is awesome.
Nice.
Wow. Well, thank you both so much for your time and for your work. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with our community today. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. Again, thank you to all of Post donors, Vida Verde's donors. This is one of the creative ways that we're, supporting different activities in our community. And of course, all of you who support Vida Verde, thank you for enabling this work to go on and to be so successful, even now in these difficult times. So we appreciate you all, and we'll have another program next week focusing on raptors, all the types of falcons and hawks that we have in the area. So we hope you could join us for that. So have a nice weekend up there in La Honda, friend.
Thank you, Mark. And
thank you, Mark,
for this great partnership, and thank you for this opportunity. Sorry, Allie, go.
No, that's what I was going to say. Just thank you for the partnership. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for, meeting us where we were with housing many years ago. And I don't know, it's just full circle, you know. It gives me hope for the future, and it's exciting to see. And to thank you, everybody, watching and spending your hour and this afternoon with us to learn a little bit about the work that we do. We hope to see you soon.
All right. Great. All right. Thanks. Thanks,
Bye.
friends. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.